Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtiprayeshu Avadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nachtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, today we are starting in chapter 22, the orbits of the planets. It's a small chapter, but lots of figures are there. Text number 1 onwards. King Parikshit inquired from Shukdev Goswami, "My dear Lord, you have already affirmed the truth that the supremely powerful sun god travels around Dhruvloka with both Dhruvloka and Mount Sumeru on his right. Yet at the same time, the sun god faces the signs of the zodiac and keeps Sumeru and Dhruvloka on his left. How can we reasonably accept that the sun god proceeds with Sumeru and Dhruvloka on both his left and right simultaneously?" So I guess Maharaj Parikshit was listening very carefully to the description. I have no idea what he was talking. Shri Shukdev Goswami clearly answered, "When a potter's wheel is moving and small ants located and that big wheel are moving with it, one can see that the motion is different from that of the wheel because they appear sometimes on one part of the wheel and sometimes on another. Similarly, the signs and constellations with Sumeru and Dhruvloka on their right move with the wheel of time, and the ant-like sun and other planets move with them. The sun and planets, however, are seen in different signs and constellations at different times. This indicates that the motion is different from that of the zodiac and the wheel of time itself." Please don't expect me to explain this. I have no clue. I didn't understand anything of this. Text 3. The original cause of the cosmic manifestation is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. When great saintly persons, fully aware of the Vedic knowledge, offered prayers to the Supreme Person, he descended to this material world in the form of the sun to benefit all the planets and purify fruitive activities. He divided himself into 12 parts and created seasonal forms, beginning with spring. In this way, he created the seasonal qualities such as heat, cold, and so on. So it's needless to say, he is a creator of everything, with the seasons, seasonal qualities, everything. Next 4. According to the system of 4 varnas and 4 ashrams, people generally worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, who is situated as a sun god. With great faith, they worship the Supreme Personality as a super soul, according to ritualistic ceremonies handed down in the 3 Vedas, such as Agnihotra and similar higher and lower fruitive acts, and according to the process of mystic yoga. In this way, they very easily attain the ultimate goal of life. Text 5. The sun god, who is Narayana or Vishnu, the soul of all the worlds, is situated in outer space between the upper and lower portions of the universe. Passing through 12 months on the wheel of time, the sun comes in touch with 12 different signs of the zodiac and assumes 12 different names according to those signs. The aggregate of those 12 months is called a samvatsar, or an entire year. According to lunar calculations, 2 fortnights, one of the waxing moon and the other of the waning moon, form 1 month. That same period is 1 day and night for the planet Pitriloka. According to stellar calculations, a month equals 2 1/4 constellations. When the sun travels for 2 months, a season passes, and therefore the seasonal changes are considered parts of the body of the year. Text 6. Thus, the time the sun takes to rotate through half of outer space is called an aion, or its period of movement in the north or in the south. Text 7. The sun god has 3 speeds: slow, fast, and moderate. The time he takes to travel entirely around the spheres of heaven, earth, and space at these 3 speeds is referred to by learned scholars by the 5 names: Samvatsar, Parivatsar, Idavatsar, Anuvatsar, and Vatsar. According to solar astronomical calculations, each year extends 6 days beyond the calendar year. And according to lunar calculations, each year is 6 days shorter. Therefore, because of the movements of the sun and moon, there is a difference of 12 days between the solar and lunar years. As the Samvatsar, Parivatsar, Idavatsar, Anuvatsar, and Vatsar pass by, 2 extra months are added within each 5 years. This makes a 6th Samvatsar, but because that Samvatsar is extra, the solar system is calculated according to the above 5 names. So that's why the leap year is added, or in Vedic calculation, Purushottam Mas or Adhik Mas is added. Text 8. Above the rays of sunshine, by a distance of 100,000 yojans, is the moon, which travels at a speed faster than that of the sun. In 2 lunar fortnights, the moon travels through the equivalent of a samvatsar of the sun. In 2¼ days, it passes through a month of the sun. and in 1 day, it passes through a fortnight of the sun. Wow. When we take into account that the moon is 100,000 yojans above the rays of the sun, it is very surprising that the modern excursions to the moon could be possible. Since the moon is so distant, how space vehicles could go there is a doubtful mystery. Modern scientific calculations are subject to one change, and therefore they are uncertain. We have to accept the calculations of the Vedic literature. These Vedic calculations are steady. The astronomical calculations made long ago and recorded in the Vedic literature are correct even now. Whether the Vedic calculations or modern ones are better may remain a mystery for others. But as far as this was Prabhupada's full faith in the scriptures, in the words of Srimad Bhagavatam, that whatever Bhagavatam is saying is perfectly correct. And that is why, based on this conviction, when there was this moon landing in, I believe, 1968, and Prabhupada was here, and Prabhupada's disciples in America, they were watching the moon landing on TV, and it was a big news everywhere. And Prabhupada said they didn't go to the moon. And so many followers left Prabhupada, thinking that Prabhupada is envious of the technological advancement of America. But they didn't understand. The pure devotee like Prabhupada, he has no envy for anything. He was basically he was basing his statements on the Shastras. And he was saying, oh, they went from here to moon, whatever, according to the news, that it took them so many days and traveling at this speed. And Prabhupada said the moon is this much distant, far away, according to Vedic knowledge. So with that speed, in this much time, they cannot reach that planet. So but at that time, many devotees didn't believe him. But later on they found out this moon landing was a complete hoax. Text 9. When the moon is waxing, the illuminating portions of it increases daily, thus creating day for the demigods and night for the Pithas. When the moon is waning, however, it causes night for the demigods and day for the Pithas. In this way, the moon passes through each constellation of stars in 30 muhurats, an entire day. The moon is a source of nectarian coolness that influences the growth of food grains, and therefore the moon god is considered the life of all living entities. He is consequently called Jiva, the chief living being within the universe. Text 10. Because the moon is full of all potentialities, it represents the influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The moon is predominating deity of everyone's mind, and therefore the moon god is called Manomaya. He is also called Anima because he gives potency to all herbs and plants. And he is called Amritamaya because he is a source of life for all living beings. The moon pleases the demigods, Pithas, human beings, animals, birds, reptiles, trees, plants, and all of the living entities. Everyone is satisfied by the presence of the moon. Therefore, the moon is also called Sarvamaya, all-pervading. Because the moon, the rays are very soothing, and they give the juice to the vegetables and fruits on earth. I believe all over the universe, but definitely on earth. Text 11. There are many stars located 200,000 yojans above the moon. By the supreme will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are fixed to the wheel of time, and thus they rotate with Mount Sumeru on their right. Their motion being different from that of sun, there are 28 important stars headed by Abhijit. The stars referred to herein are 1.6 million miles above the sun, and they are 4 million miles above the earth. Text 12. Some 1.6 million miles above this group of stars is the planet Venus, which moves at almost exactly the same pace as the sun according to the swift, slow, and moderate movements. Sometimes Venus moves behind the sun, sometimes in front of the sun, and sometimes along with it. Venus nullifies the influence of planets that are obstacles to rainfall. Consequently, its presence causes rainfall, and it is therefore considered very favorable for all living beings within this universe. This has been accepted by learned scholars. So Venus is so far above sun. Text 13. Mercury is described to be similar to Venus in that it moves sometimes behind the sun, sometimes in front of the sun, and sometimes along with it. It is 1.6 million miles above Venus, or 7.2 million miles above Earth. Mercury, which is a son of the moon, is almost always very auspicious for the inhabitants of the universe. But when it does not move along with the sun, it forebodes cyclones, dust, irregular rainfall, and waterless clouds. In this way, it creates fearful conditions due to inadequate or excessive rainfall. So this is all astrology also coming into picture here. Text 14. Situated 1.6 million miles above Mercury or 8.8 million miles above Earth is a planet Mars. If this planet does not travel in a crooked way, it crosses through each sign of the zodiac in 3 fortnights, and in this way it travels through all 12, one after another. It almost always creates unfavorable conditions in respect to rainfall and other influences. So Mangal, its name is Mangal, but doesn't do any Mangal to anybody. Well, for devotees, it's always Mangal. Situated 1.6 million miles above Mars or 10.4 million miles above Earth is the planet Jupiter, which travels through one sign of the zodiac within the period of a parivatsar. Jupiter is very favorable to the Brahmins of the universe. Text 16. Situated 1.6 million miles above Jupiter, or 12 million miles above Earth, is the planet Saturn, which passes through one sign of the zodiac in 30 months and covers the entire zodiac circle in 30 anuvatsars. This planet is always very inauspicious for the universal situation. So those who have experience of Sadhisati and those who are going to have, well, for devotees, it's always auspicious because anything unfavorable happens, they take more shelter of Krishna and holy names of Krishna. Text 17. Situated 8.8 million miles above Saturn or 20.8 million miles above Earth are the 7 saintly sages who are always thinking of the well-being of the inhabitants of the universe. They circumambulate the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu, known as Dhruvaloka, the pole star. Srila Madhvacharya quotes the following words from the Brahmanda Purana. Lord Vishnu, who is the source of knowledge and transcendental bliss, has assumed the form of Shishumar in the 7th heaven, which is situated in the topmost level of the universe. All the other planets, beginning with the sun, exist under the shelter of this Shishumar planetary system. So small chapter today because there was hardly any purport. So here ends the 22nd chapter. But talking about Saturn, Shani, and the shloka says, this planet is always very inauspicious for the universal situation. So what had happened when Krishna appeared in Braj, and now Krishna being Krishna, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and everybody wants to come and take his darshan or be in the Braj where Krishna is. So all the planets came because they all are persons also. They are the personifications as well. So Krishna just blessed them. Okay, you all came, take darshan, fine, go back. And then came Shani Maharaj. And Krishna was in Nandagaon. So when Shani Maharaj came, so Krishna asked him to stop at the outskirts of Nandagaon. He said, no, you don't come here because wherever you go, there's always a problem. And when you are there, 7.5 years are gone. It's always going to be a big problem. And I don't want my Brajvasis, especially the Nandagaon Vasis, to go through any issues because of you. But Shanidev said, but Krishna, you have to bless me. I'm your creation. You have created me. How can you just discard me like that? You have to give me a mercy. Then Krishna blessed him to stay at a place which is now called Shanigaon. And it's very close to Surya Kund, where Radharani goes every day to worship Surya Dev. And it's close to, and this whole area is very close to Sasural of Radharani. So that Shani temple is a huge temple and nicely made complex. It is said that now the actual Shani Dev is there because he himself came. Because in Braj, because Krishna was there, so everybody had to come to take darshan of Krishna and get his mercy. So the real Shani Dev is there, and every Saturday there's a huge gathering, and so many people come and they pray to Shani Dev to reduce or decrease his influence in the chart. But they get a huge benefit. Braj Mandal there. And so definitely they get lots of bhakti by visiting Braj Mandal. And if they have more knowledge, then they can visit the Surya Kund or Javat and Nandagaon and then Parsana or Kamevan. There's so many places nearby. But this is how Shani Dev came to Braj. And Saturdays, it's just crowded, very, very crazy over there. So anyway, we can stop here, see anybody has any questions or comments, and we can start the next chapter tomorrow. Even that chapter is very small, only 9 verses.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji. Prabhuji, today is the birthday of Vinay Prabhuji. I just wanted to make that announcement. Happy birthday, Prabhuji.
Happy birthday, Vinay Prabhuji.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank
Happy
you so
birthday,
much.
Prabhu.
Thank you.
Happy birthday,
Happy
Vinay
birthday.
Prabhuji.
Happy birthday, Vinay.
Thank you so much,
Vinay
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, happy birthday.
Prabhuji.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday,
Thank you.
Prabhuji.
Happy birthday,
Thank you,
Vinay Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Happy birthday, Vinay Prabhuji.
Thank
Happy
you,
birthday,
my
Vinay
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, Paul Prabhuji. It feels like to me it's shower of worship. I mean, blessings are coming on me, and it's such a big family we are. Thank you so much to everyone, Prabhuji. Mataji.
Yeah. Chalo, enjoy your special day.
Sure, Prabhuji.
Okay, so we can stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much,
Krishna,
Prabhuji. Jai
Prabhuji.
Shri
Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna.
Krishna.